Hi Epsilon, my name's Sophia, and today I'm going to help you distinguish between soundness and validity. So, I heard that you're struggling to distinguish between soundness and validity. Today I'm going to help you try to clarify the two and how to know when something is valid. Soundness and validity come from deductive arguments. You might be thinking, so what's a deductive argument? Well, a deductive argument has a conclusion that follows necessarily from your premise. Your premises, you must have two or more premises in a deductive argument, but only one conclusion. If one ought to accept your premises as truth values, then one might as well also ought to accept your conclusion as truth value as well. Your premises are your reasons, your evidence, and your conclusion is your claim, and your conclusion is supported by your premises. Okay, so let's have an example of a deductive argument. All dogs can bark. Max is a dog, therefore Max can bark. So the Max can bark is your conclusion supported by your two premises. So if one ought to accept premise 1 and premise 2, he also ought to accept your conclusion as a truth value. Validity is based on the structure of a deductive argument and solely the structure. There are many structures of deductive argument, but let's look at two valid ones first, which are called your syllogism structure. So you have two syllogism structures. Let's first begin by discussing what the disjunctive syllogism is. The structure looks like this: A or B, not B, then A. So your premise 1 and premise 2 and your conclusion, as we said. Either drive to school or walk 10 miles. Don't drive to school, walk 10 miles. A, B, not B, then A. This is a valid structure with your premises 1 and 2 supporting your conclusion. Your hypothetical syllogism is also a syllogism that is a valid structure of deductive argument. It goes like this, for example: if it is hot, then it is sunny. If it is sunny, then I will sweat. And your conclusion is, if it is hot, then I will sweat. This is a valid form where your premises build on one another, supporting you and leading you to a valid conclusion. Now let's look at two invalid structure of deductive arguments. Affirming the consequent is one form of invalid argument. If A then B, B then A. For example, if you study, you get an A. Get an A if you study. This structure is in the form of affirming the consequence, but it is an invalid structure. Denying the antecedent goes like this: if A then B, not A, not B. For example, if you eat, you gain weight. If you don't eat, you don't gain weight. Valid arguments can be sound or unsound. Let's look at one that is sound. Socrates is a man. All men are mortal. Socrates is mortal. Soundness is based on the actual truth of the premises. Let's look at an unsound argument. If it is raining, then the sidewalks are wet. It's raining, the sidewalks are wet. Does this sound like truth value? No. The reason why it is unsound is because the sidewalks can be wet from many factors, not just one. For example, the sprinklers may be on, or somebody washing his or her car. Just because the structure of a deductive argument is valid does not mean it is sound. And that will conclude my presentation to you about soundness and validity.